It started with a door, a single locked door in the basement of our house. You'd think after 8 years of marriage I'd have a right to know what was behind it. But from the very beginning, Emma made one thing painfully clear: never go in there. And I didn't, not for years. I respected her privacy, even when it felt a little weird. She told me it was her art studio, though I never once saw her bring home supplies, never smelled paint or heard any noise from down there. She said the space was personal, sacred, something she needed for her own sanity. I loved her, I didn't ask questions, but everything changed the night I found the second phone. Let me back up. Emma and I met 10 years ago at a gallery opening. She was elegant, magnetic, and impossibly smart. I was a high school English teacher who barely knew how to dress himself, let alone flirt in a room full of artists. But she noticed me, and for some unfathomable reason, she stayed. We got married after 2 years, bought a house in a quiet part of Oregon, and started talking about maybe having kids. Life was good, stable, predictable, until a few weeks ago when she started acting. Off, she was jumpy, distracted, always checking her phone and then setting it face. Down the second I walked in, our conversations thinned out. She started sleeping in later, disappearing for hours on errands that didn't add up. And that damn door, she started locking it even when she was home. I'd walk past the basement stairs and feel the tension radiating from behind that thin slab of wood like it was holding something in. Then came the phone. She left her purse on the kitchen counter, something she never did. I was grabbing my keys when I noticed it was half snipped, and a corner of something black was sticking out. I thought it was her makeup compact. I don't know why I even looked. It was another phone, different model, no case, no fingerprint unlock, just a passcode. My stomach twisted. I put it back immediately, but the seed was planted. That night, she went to bed early. I couldn't sleep. I lay there next to her, staring at the ceiling, my brain spinning. Around 2 a.m., I got up, went downstairs, and pulled the phone from her purse again. This time, I opened it. I won't say how. Let's just say I knew her well enough to guess the passcode. Her childhood dog's name. It worked on the second try, and what I saw, my blood ran cold. There were messages from a man named Ian. Dozens. Some of them were nothing but coordinates. Others were phrases like "eat a 3 days" or "it's prepped your call now." One of them had a picture attached. I still don't know what I was looking at. It looked like a shipping container. Inside was a metal table, and on that table something wrapped in a tarp. Blood smeared down the side. I dropped the phone like it burned me. That was 3 nights ago. Since then, I've been pretending everything is normal. Emma hasn't noticed a thing. She hums while she makes coffee. She kisses my cheek when she leaves for her appointments. But I've been watching, tracking her every move. Tonight, she's out again. She said she was meeting a friend for drinks. I waited 10 minutes after her car pulled out, then grabbed the set of old house keys from the junk drawer, the ones we never use anymore. And now I'm standing in front of the basement door, hand shaking as I slide the key into the lock. I know I shouldn't be doing this, whatever's behind that door. It's not something I'm supposed to see, but I have to know. I turn the key, the lock clicks. I open the door, and I take the first step into a different life, one my wife never wanted me to find. I didn't sleep that night, not even a minute. After the voicemail from Jake's girlfriend, I just sat there in the dark, heart pounding like a jackhammer, staring at my phone. I listened to her message over and over again, trying to hear something, anything, that I had missed. A clue, a background sound, even a tone in her voice that might tell me Jake was okay. But all I heard was fear, and it was all because of me. See, 6 years ago, I made the worst decision of my life. I got in with some guys I shouldn't have. Nothing too crazy at first. Just some stolen electronics, a little side hustle flipping them, fast money. But one night, something went way too far. One of the guys, Trevor, had a rich streak of rage in him. When our last job didn't go right, he snapped. We were supposed to just scare the guy we were stealing from. Just a warning, Trevor said, but then I heard a scream, a real one. I ran in and saw blood on the floor, the guy curled up and not moving. I froze. Jake had come to pick me up, totally unaware of what I was involved in. When the cops showed up, I was standing there like a statue. Jake saw everything. And when I started to open my mouth, he just stepped forward. It was me. He said, calm as anything. The next few hours were a blur. The cops believed him. Why wouldn't they? He had no record, I had priors. Jake was the golden child, the successful one. The clean-cut, straight-arrow brother. I was the screw-up, always had been, always knew it. He pled down to aggravated assault. 3 years, I never said a word, never visited. I couldn't face him, and now, 3 years out of prison, he was gone. Vanished. The next morning, I drove straight to Jake's apartment. His girlfriend, Nina, opened the door, eyes red, phone clutched in her hand like she was about to squeeze it to dust. Her voice cracked the moment she saw me. He was scared, Adam. I don't know what he got into, but he kept checking the locks. He said someone had been following him. She stepped aside and I walked in. The place was spotless. Jake had always been like that. Clean, organized, in control, but his desk drawers were half open. A duffel bag was on the floor, half backed like he was about to leave but never finished. Then Nina handed me something, a crumpled receipt. A gas station dated the day before. Paid in cash. Location, 2 hours north. Why would he be there? She whispered, he hasn't driven out of town in months. I didn't answer, because I knew why. Trevor. That name I hadn't said out loud in years suddenly felt like a curse in my throat. He had been out of prison less than a year. I'd heard rumors that he was still pissed, that he wanted revenge for me cutting him out of that last score. That he knew Jake took the fall, and if Jake was heading north, that was where Trevor had last been seen. I told Nina I'd look into it. She tried to come with me. I said no. I told her to trust me. She said, that's exactly what Jake said before everything went to hell. And that hit harder than I expected. I drove north like a man possessed. The receipt had a timestamp 4:47 p.m. I got there just past noon the next day. It was a ragged little gas station off an old highway, the kind of place you only stop at if you're desperate. The clerk was half asleep, barely looked up when I asked if he remembered Jake. Maybe. He shrugged. Lot of people come through. I slipped him $1.50. Suddenly his memory sharpened. Yeah, actually, tall guy, black jacket, seemed nervous, filled up, bought smokes, and asked about the cabins up by Miller's Ridge. Miller's Ridge, my stomach turned. That place had been abandoned for years. We used to go up there as teenagers, drinking, partying, hiding from the world. Trevor knew it too. I thanked him and drove straight there. The cabins looked worse than I remembered. Half rotted wood, windows like black eyes in the woods. I parked and got out slowly, every instinct in my body screaming that something was wrong. The forest was silent, too silent, and then I saw it. Jake's car, half covered in pine needles, parked behind the third cabin. My legs nearly gave out. I ran to the door, tried it, locked. Jake. I shouted nothing. I circled to the back. A window was cracked open. I pried it up and climbed in. The place was cold, dark, filled with dust and mildew. And empty, but not untouched. On the table was a phone. Jake's phone, next to it, a single Polaroid photo. Jake, tied to a chair, eyes open, mouth gagged. Behind him, standing with one hand on his shoulder, was Trevor. And on the bottom of the photo, scrawled in thick black ink, you should have taken the fall. I stared at the Polaroid until my hands started to shake. Trevor, it was him. Same cold eyes, same smug grin. Like he knew I'd find it, like he wanted me to. The message was as clear as it was cruel. This wasn't just about Jake anymore. This was a game, and I was next. I stuffed the photo and Jake's phone in my jacket and got out of that cabin as fast as I could. Every part of me was wired, my thoughts racing 1,000,000 miles an hour. If Trevor had Jake, he wouldn't keep him here. Not for long. He was too smart, too vicious. This cabin was just a breadcrumb, a taunt. And I was going to follow it. Back in my car, I turned on Jake's phone. It was locked, but I knew his passcode, our old house number growing up. He never changed it. The phone buzzed to life, and there it was. One unsent text draft, last edited the night he disappeared. Adam, I think Trevor knows. He came to my work, said he had questions about that night. I didn't say anything, but he was smiling the whole time, like he was waiting for me to lie. My blood ran cold. Jake knew. Somehow he'd found out Trevor was back, and instead of coming to me, he tried to handle it himself, because that's what Jake did. He protected me, even when I didn't deserve it, and now he was paying for that again. But this time I wasn't going to let it end like before. I headed back into town trying to think. Trevor was smart, but he was predictable. Always had a favorite hangout, a fallback, a territory, and if he was dragging Jake into this, he'd do it somewhere he felt in control. I remembered a bar, the Hollow. Not technically a bar anymore, more like a rotting shell with busted pool tables and a back room for quiet conversations. Trevor used to run his deals out of there. Last I heard, someone torched the place. Still, it was worth a shot. I pulled up to the Hollow after dark. The front sign was shattered, the windows boarded up, but a dull glow flickered from the rear alley door. I drew in a breath, slipped the tire iron from under my seat, and walked in. The place reeked of smoke and damp wood. In the back room, two guys were at a table, talking low, but stopped the moment they saw me. One of them stood, all wiry, with a neck tattoo that crawled up to his ear. "You lost?" he asked. I raised the photo of Jake. "I'm looking for Trevor. He didn't even blink. He ain't here. Where is he?" I said he ain't. I slammed the tire iron on the table hard enough to rattle their drinks. The room went silent. The other guy, a shorter man with trembling hands, finally spoke. "He's in the old slaughterhouse outside Langdon." My stomach twisted. Langdon was nearly 2 hours east, dead town, barely a blip on the map. Perfect place to disappear someone. "What's he doing there?" I asked. The short man swallowed hard. He said, "He's going to finish what should have happened years ago." I didn't wait. I was in the car and gone before they could change their minds. Every mile closer to Langdon, the road got darker, lonelier. When I finally saw the rusted gates of the old slaughterhouse, my hands were trembling. I killed the engine and stepped out. Total silence. No lights, no wind, just the slow creak of a broken sign swaying on its chain. I moved quietly, circling the building, looking for a way in. One of the side doors had been jimmied open. I slipped through. The air inside was damp and rotting. The building still smelled like blood, even after all these years. And then I heard it, a voice, muffled, strained. "Help! Jake!" My heart dropped. I followed the sound deeper into the factory. Past rusted hooks, broken conveyor belts through a narrow hallway, and then into a wide, echoing chamber. Jake was there, tied to a chair, face bruised but alive. I ran to him. "Jake, Adam!" No, something slammed into me from the side. Pain exploded in my ribs as I hit the ground, gasping for air. My vision swam, and through the haze I saw boots. Then a voice I hadn't heard in years. "Always knew you'd come crawling back." Trevor! He knelt beside me, pressing something cold and hard against my neck. "A knife you owe me," he said, "and I think it's time you finally pay." The blade bit into my skin just enough to draw blood. I didn't move. Trevor leaned in, his breath hot and sour. "You think you're some kind of hero, Adam, coming to save your brother." He chuckled. "You're not. You're the reason he's here in the first place." He was right, and that terrified me more than the knife. I looked past him at Jake. His face was tight with pain, but his eyes were locked on mine. Still calm, still steady. Somehow, after everything, he wasn't afraid. I had to be that strong now. "You want revenge." I rasped, "Take it, but let him go. This isn't about him anymore. It never was." Trevor grinned. "Wrong again? This has always been about him, because you should have taken the fall. You should have rotted in that cell. But he stepped up, lied for you, paid for your sins, and now he stood. Now you're both going to pay." He raised the knife. I lunged, pain exploded in my side, but I didn't stop. I caught him mid-swing, driving him back into the wall. The knife clattered to the floor. We grappled, fists flying, years of hate and guilt pouring out in every blow. I got lucky, caught him in the jaw. He stumbled. I grabbed the knife, and then Jake was shouting, "Don't do it, Adam. Don't become him." I froze. Trevor was on the ground, blood on his lip, laughing. "What, you gonna spare me now?" he sneered. After everything, I looked at the blade. My hand was shaking. I wanted to. God help me, I wanted to, but Jake was right. I dropped the knife. Police sirens howled in the distance. Jake had triggered something, maybe a call or a locator. I didn't care. I just stood there, shaking, as the lights flashed red and blew through the broken windows. Trevor didn't laugh anymore. They took him away in cuffs. Jake was rushed to the hospital. Concussion, fractured ribs, bruises, but he'd live. He made sure they knew everything about Trevor, about the abduction, and about the fire all those years ago. The truth finally came out. The charges against Jake were dropped. He was free as for me. I confessed I told them everything about the night of the fire, about how I started it, about how Jake protected me. I expected a cell, but because Jake had already served time, and because I was 17 then, they let me off with probation, counseling, community service. Not because I deserved it, but because Jake insisted. I'm not covering for you. He said, but I'm not losing my brother again either. We're rebuilding slowly. There are nights I still wake up sweating. Nights where I hear that fire crackling, see Trevor's face, but I remember Jake too, tied up, beaten, still trying to protect me, and I know I owe him everything, not just my freedom, but my life.